Welcome back to another beginner-friendly acrylic painting and another New Mexico desert scene. So let's get started. So first things first, I'm going to paint the sky a beautiful turquoise. Start with a little phthalo blue. Add some white to that, a lot of white. And I might put a little glazing liquid in that too to keep it nice and juicy and workable. And just a tiny bit of that benzimidazzolone yellow to make it a little more turquoise. Let's see how we like that. That looks pretty good to me. We're going to start with a big mesa here in the middle, kind of round. Let's start with some yellow, get a little quin magenta there, get a nice orange going. And I'm going to put that in right on top of that wet blue, and it will mute things down a little bit. That's okay though. We'll just start there. You can always come back while the paint is wet. You can always come back and blend into it. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Let's get most of that down there. Now I'll come back with some quin magenta, a little yellow, get that nice shape going, little titanium white here. Kind of differentiate that mesa so it's not just a big blob. Let's have a little quin magenta here. I like to make a nice rough edge. Use the tip of my brush and just let it roll up there because these shapes are really organic. They're not flat and round. So let your brush do some fun stuff. Okay, as I come further down here, I'm going to add a little more titanium white. And I like to use a round brush because it really does a good job of blending those colors. Let's get a little yellow. You can see as I'm going down here, I'm just getting really pretty blends of color. I'll wipe my brush. A little bit of titanium white's kind of not blended up there. There we go. Okay. As we come down here, I want a nice orange because I'm going to have a road or a path back through the desert there. So I want a nice orange. I want it kind of bright. Just mixing my quin magenta and my benzimidazzolone. Oops, it looks like I got a little bit of blue in there. That's not going to work. Let's mix it down here. I'm going to take my benzimidazzolone, a little bit of quin magenta. There we go, that's better. Let's lay that in down here. And I probably didn't make enough of that. Let's have a little more Hansa yellow. A little bit more Hansa yellow over here. Now you know what happens next. Take 5 minutes to let this dry, pause your video, and come right back and we'll do layer number 2. Okay, we're back. Now we're going to put in some shrubbery and things there in the desert, like you'll often see. So I'm going to take my bigger number 12 brush and I'm going to mix up some greens. Let's have some of our benzimidazzolone yellow and I'll put it right down here in this blue that we had going earlier. Let's make some greens down here. So I'm going to start here, right here. Let's have a little yellow. And I'm just building a background for my more delicate shapes that I'm going to be putting in. Let's get a little bit more green going. Over here, we'll have these straight across the back there. And then we'll have some in the foreground as well. While I have this green on my brush, I'm going to do some real small things back here on the ridge line, just with the tip of my brush. Really small, very faint. Let's go a little bit darker. Really tiny. Just the tip of my brush. Okay, so we've got our big shapes going here in the front. Let's add a little more detail to those. I'm going to take my number 6. I'm going to mix up. I'm actually going to use a little bit more of our yellow. Let's put more yellow out. All right, so I'm going to take some of my yellow down here, and I'm going to just mix up a lot of greens. But I don't want the same greens that I had before, so I'm going to go into my Quin Magenta, get some browns going here. Let's add a little bit of white to that. Get some glazing liquid in that so things stay wet. That's a nice muddy yellow-green there. Let's add a little bit more yellow down here, and I'm going to add a little phthalo to it, so I've got a dark green now. So just have a lot of greens right here that I can play with. And let's have some glazing liquid too. Let's start in the back here and darken these up a little bit. Back here. A little bit more blue there. I'm just using the tip of my brush. I'm going to get some yellow and bring it right into that so it blends right on top. And that dark blue will serve as some contrast to what we're going to do in the foreground. Get my wonderful muddy brown that I made here. Let's see if that has enough contrast. Yep, that's pretty good. I think I want to add a little titanium white to that. So I want these to be in the foreground. And that's still not quite light enough. Let's go a little bit lighter. A little bluer. There we go. Add a little yellow to that. And a little white. You want that to sit in front. Don't want it too white. Let's mute that back a little bit. But you see how that big shape is holding so that we can put all these little small shapes on top. And that gives us some really nice variety there in the foreground. I want to go just a tad bluer. Okay, let's go on the other side. We're going to make that a little more sparse. I'm going to go a little bit bluer on the other side too. Now over here, I'm going to make these a little more sparse. So I'm going to start at the bottom and go up. leave a little bit of your underpainting showing so that it looks like the rusty earth, that kind of red earth that's so common in New Mexico and Arizona, in the deserts. I'm going to have a little bit of that dark blue again. Over here. These are going to be a little bigger because they're in the foreground. We need a little bit something up there on the ridge line, so I'm just going to give it a little bit of something. Let's go a little bit darker. There, that looks a little better. That's our New Mexico desert scene. Thanks for joining me. Be sure to join me again for another beginner-friendly acrylic painting. Be sure to hit that subscription button and that notification bell. And remember what I always say, keep painting.